El Señor Trump, no se escapa nadie aviso que dices que el gobierno mexicano envía criminales, violadores y traficantes de drogas a través de la frontera. Gobernador Bush ha recordado esos comentarios como presupuesto extraordinariamente feo. Me gustaría que, justo al lado de él, nos dicen hablar con él directamente y decir cómo responder a eso. Varias veces han dicho que tienen pruebas de que el gobierno mexicano está haciendo eso. ¿Por qué no usar este primer debate republicano para combatir su prueba con los estadounidenses?
So, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration, Chris. You wouldn't even be talking about it. This was not a subject that was on anybody's mind until I brought it up at my announcement, and I said Mexico is sending. Except the reporters, because they're a very dishonest lot, generally speaking, in the world of politics, they didn't cover my statement the way I said it. The fact is, since then, many killings, murders, crime, drugs pouring across the border, our money going out and the drugs coming in. And I said, we need to build a wall, and it has to be built quickly. And I don't mind having a big, beautiful door in that wall so that people can come into this country legally. But we need, Jeb, to build a wall. We need to keep illegals out. Border Patrol, I was at the border last week. Border Patrol, people that I deal with, that I talk to, they say this is what's happening because our leaders are stupid, our politicians are stupid, and the Mexican government is much smarter, much sharper, much more cunning, and they send the bad ones over because they don't want to pay for them, they don't want to take care of them. Why should they when the stupid leaders of the United States will do it for them? And that's what's happening, whether you like it or not.
Señor Biden, ¿cómo responde a que Donald Trump dice sobre la inmigración?
Anybody to be down right now about what's going on in the Republican Party. I mean this sincerely now. This is not, no, this, I'm being deadly earnest about this. I want you to remember, notwithstanding the fact that there's one guy absolutely denigrating an entire group of people, appealing to the baser side of human nature, working on this notion of xenophobia in a way that hasn't occurred in a long time, since the Know Nothing Party back at the end of the 19th century. This will pass. The Trump and that stuff you're hearing on the other team, and not just the other, this isn't about Democrat, Republican, it's about a sick message.
¿Qué es el problema con inmigración indocumentado en los Estados Unidos?
And I can tell you America doesn't have one immigration problem, it has three. First, despite the fact that we are the most generous country in the history of the world on allowing people to come here legally, we have people still coming illegally. Second, we have a legal immigration system that no longer works. It primarily is built on the basis of whether or not you have a relative living here instead of merit. And third, we have 11 or 12 million people, many of whom have been here for longer than a decade, who are already here illegally. And we must deal with all three of these problems. We cannot deal with all three of these problems in one massive piece of legislation. I learned that. We tried it that way. Here's the way forward. First, we must secure our border, the physical border with a wall, absolutely, but we also need to have an entry-exit tracking system. 40% of the people who come here illegally come illegally, and then they overstay the visa. We also need a mandatory E-Verify system. After we've done that, step two would be to modernize our legal immigration system. So you come to America on the basis of what you can contribute economically, not whether or not simply you have a relative living here. And after we've done those two things, I believe the American people will be very reasonable and responsible about what you do with someone who's been here and isn't a criminal. If you're a criminal, obviously you will not be able to stay. Thank you, Senator.
Hablamos de los temas, Senador Obama. Quiero preguntarle sobre la inmigración. Admite diversos beneficios para los inmigrantes indocumentados, incluyendo licencias de conducir y la matrícula universitaria en el estado. ¿Qué le daría a estadounidenses que dicen que están perdiendo porque le dan beneficios a las personas que irrumpieron las leyes en este país, que ha venido aquí ilegalmente? Y, a continuación, en general, en su calidad de presidente, donde se establece la línea divisoria cuando se trata de beneficios para los inmigrantes indocumentados.
I would say that they're justified in feeling frustrated because this administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem, and the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away. And oftentimes, employers are exploiting these undocumented workers. They're not paying the minimum wage. They're not observing worker safety laws. And so what we have to do is create a comprehensive solution to the problem. Now, I have already stated that as president, I will make sure that we finally have the kind of border security that we need. That's step number one. Step number two is to take on employers. Right now, an employer has more of a chance of getting hit by lightning than be prosecuted for hiring an undocumented worker. That has to change. They have to be held accountable.
Cuando el presidente Obama pasos hacia abajo, unos de los 3 millones de personas habrán sido deportados bajo su vigilancia. Tristemente, pero como era de esperar, se ha convertido en presidente Obama entre la creciente población hispana en los Estados Unidos como el deportador en jefe. Miles de familias trabajadoras en los Estados Unidos se han divertido por la fuerza como consecuencia de esta política. Si fueras a entrar en política, ¿qué haría usted sobre eso?
Well, even if I don't re-enter politics, I will continue speaking out for comprehensive immigration reform, both because I think the people who are here, who are raising families and working hard and contributing to our country, deserve a path to citizenship. I have believed that for many years. I have argued that in many different contexts. I also think that we have to understand the difficulty that President Obama finds himself in, because there are laws that impose certain obligations on him. And it was my understanding that the numbers have been moderating, in part as the Department of Homeland Security and other law enforcement officials understood that separating children from families, I mean, the horror of a father or a mother going to work and being picked up and immediately whisked away, and children coming home from school to an empty house and nobody can say where their mother or their father is. That is just not who we are as Americans.
En su opinión, ¿cuál es su respuesta a la idea de deportar a todos los inmigrantes indocumentados en los Estados Unidos? Y también, ¿cómo se siente acerca de la necesidad de un camino hacia la ciudadanía para los inmigrantes indocumentados?
It is not practical to think that FedEx couldn't ship 12 million people out of here. Let's find out who they are. Let's make sure if they're criminals, we deport them or put them in prison. If they're law-abiding people and good families, and if they're working, all those things, they can stay. As to whether they should have a path to citizenship, I don't favor it, but we're not going to take any of that off the table at this point. And then fix the border, control the border, and take a look at the overall immigration system as it relates to people who have skills, who want to come into this country and work and be law-abiding. I don't see what's so complicated about this. You know, the problem gets to be in politics. Those people who yell the loudest, seem to get the most attention, but they don't represent the majority. And by the way,
Yo soy Amanda.
Y yo soy Kiara. Reportaje de Señorita Blackmore Noticias.
Gracias por mirando. Adiós.